my name is Mia. I'll never forget the day my mother-in-law, Helen, put my place in the family to a vote. It was a Sunday dinner at their cozy farmhouse, a place that used to feel like a second home. I sat at the table, my 7-year-old son, Ethan, beside me. The room was filled with the familiar ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, and the scent of Helen's homemade apple pie wafted through the air. But this time, there was an underlying tension that I couldn't ignore. Helen stood at the head of the table, her eyes cold and determined. She looked around the room and asked, "All in favor of Mia no longer being a part of this family?" Without hesitation, every hand in the room shot up, including those of my husband's older sister, Lily, and younger brother, Jake. Ethan's eyes widened in confusion. He grabbed my sleeve and whispered, "Mom, why are they doing this?" I wanted to scream, to lash out at them for their cruelty. But I knew that would only make things worse for Ethan. So, I forced a smile, picked him up, and walked out of the house. As I drove away, the weight of what had just happened hit me like a ton of bricks. How could they do this to me? I had been a part of this family for years, through thick and thin. I had loved and cared for them, and this was how they repaid me. But what they didn't know was that I had been keeping records. For months, I had been documenting every instance of their harassment and exclusion. I knew that someday, I would need this evidence to fight back. It all started 10 months ago, when my husband, Ryan, died in a tragic car accident. He was a hardworking mechanic, always on the go. His death was a shock to all of us, especially Ethan. He was only 6 years old at the time, and he couldn't understand why his daddy wasn't coming home. I was devastated, but I knew I had to be strong for Ethan. I took over the responsibility of running our small family home, working long hours at the local hospital as a nurse. It was a struggle, but I was determined to make a life for us. But Helen and the rest of the family didn't seem to understand my grief. Instead of offering support, they started to push me out. At first, it was small things. They would change the seating arrangement at family dinners, making sure I was always at the end of the table. They would talk about family matters without including me, as if I was no longer a part of the equation. Then, things got worse. Helen started to interfere with Ethan's education. She called his school without my knowledge, trying to enroll him in a different district. When I found out, I was furious. I confronted her, but she just brushed me off, saying it was for Ethan's best. Lily started showing up at my house unannounced, taking Ethan out without asking my permission. She would keep him for hours, not even bothering to call and let me know where he was. When I asked her to stop, she just rolled her eyes and said I was being overprotective. Jake was the worst of them all. He owed Ryan a large sum of money, $20,000 to be exact. He had borrowed it to start his own business, but it had failed. Instead of paying Ryan back, he tried to hide the debt from me. He would avoid me at family gatherings, and when I finally confronted him, he denied everything. I knew something was wrong, so I started to look into Ryan's files. That's when I found the promissory note. It was dated 2 years ago, and it clearly stated that Jake owed Ryan $20,000. I was shocked and angry. How could he do this to us? I decided to keep the note a secret for now. I knew that if I confronted Jake, he would deny it, and I didn't have any proof. So, I waited for the right moment. The Sunday after the vote, I took Ethan to church. It was a place that Ryan and I used to go together, and I wanted to keep that tradition alive. But when we walked in, I noticed that people were avoiding me. They would look away when I made eye contact, and some of them would even cross the street to avoid me. I didn't understand what was happening. Then, one of the ladies from the church approached me. She whispered, "Helen told us that you're a bad mother, that you're not fit to take care of Ethan." I was heartbroken. I couldn't believe that Helen would spread such lies about me. That night, after Ethan had gone to bed, I sat in my bedroom, looking at the promissory note. I knew that I had to do something. I couldn't let them get away with this. I decided to consult a lawyer. I found a local attorney, Sarah, who specialized in family law. I told her everything that had happened, showing her my phone notes and the promissory note. She was shocked and angry on my behalf. She explained to me that I had a strong case. In our state, the surviving parent has sole legal custody of the child. Helen and the rest of the family had no legal right to interfere with Ethan's upbringing. She also said that the promissory note was a legally enforceable debt, and that I could demand repayment from Jake. Sarah drafted a formal letter for me. It outlined my legal rights as Ethan's sole custodial parent, documented the pattern of harassment, and demanded repayment of the $20,000 debt. She sent the letter to Helen, Lily, and Jake via certified mail, with a return receipt requested. While the letter was in transit, Helen made her next move. She called the hospital where I worked and spoke to my supervisor. She told him that she was concerned about my ability to work as a nurse, given my personal situation. She said that I was a liability to the patients and that I should be fired. My supervisor called me into his office and told me what had happened. He said that he didn't believe Helen's accusations, but that he had to investigate. I was devastated. I had worked so hard at the hospital, and now Helen was trying to take that away from me. I added this incident to my documentation, along with the date, time, and my supervisor's name. I knew that I had to be prepared for anything. A few days later, Sarah called me to tell me that the letter had been delivered. Helen had signed for it, which meant that she had received it. I knew that it was only a matter of time before she contacted me. Sure enough, a few hours later, my phone rang. It was Helen. Her voice was cold and angry. She demanded to know what I was doing, why I had sent a lawyer after her. I told her that I was setting boundaries, that I wouldn't tolerate their harassment any longer. She was furious. She said that I was ruining the family, that I was being selfish. I told her that I was only trying to protect Ethan, that I wouldn't let them take him away from me. She hung up on me, but I knew that this wasn't the end. She called a family meeting for the following weekend, and she demanded that I be there. I knew that this was going to be a difficult meeting, but I was ready. I gathered all of my documentation, the promissory note, and Ryan's letter. I also dressed in my best suit, wanting to make a good impression. When I arrived at the farmhouse, I could feel the tension in the air. Helen, Lily, and Jake were sitting at the dining table, their faces grim. I took a deep breath and walked into the room. Helen stood up and demanded an explanation. I told her that I had sent the letter to protect my rights as Ethan's mother. I showed her the documentation, proving the pattern of harassment. I also showed her the promissory note, demanding repayment from Jake. Helen was shocked. She couldn't believe that I had found out about the debt. She turned to Jake and demanded an explanation. Jake tried to make excuses, but I could see the guilt in his eyes. Lily also tried to defend herself, but I wasn't having it. I told her that her actions had been unacceptable, that she had no right to take Ethan without my permission. In the end, they realized that they had no choice but to back down. Helen apologized for her behavior, and Jake agreed to start repaying the debt. It wasn't easy, but I had finally stood up for myself. I had set boundaries, and I had shown them that I wouldn't be pushed around. In the months that followed, things slowly started to improve. Helen and the rest of the family began to respect my boundaries. They started to include me in family events, and they treated me with the respect that I deserved. Ethan also seemed happier. He no longer had to deal with the tension and conflict in the family. He could focus on being a kid, and I was grateful for that. Looking back, I realize that this experience has made me a stronger person. It has taught me the importance of standing up for myself, of not letting others push me around. It has also taught me the importance of family, of choosing the people who truly matter. Family isn't a vote. It's not a show of hands or a seat at someone else's table. Family is what you build when you stop asking for permission to exist. And I'm proud to say that I've built a family with Ethan, a family that is based on love, respect, and trust.